Notre Dame went into Fayetteville, Arkansas, lit up the scoreboard on the Razorback defense, held their offense in check, and cruised to a 56-13 win. This is the team that we expected to see in the offseason, and now it's got me thinking, are the Irish back? I think so. Let's talk about it coming up next.
You are Locked On Irish, your daily podcast on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome in to this instant reaction episode of Locked On Irish. I'm your host, Tyler Wojciak. I'm a Notre Dame alum, producer at Fox Sports, and I've been covering the Irish since 2020. I am thrilled to have you here with me on Saturday afternoon. We're coming at you live with this instant reaction episode on September 27th, right after the Irish crushed the Arkansas Razorbacks 56-13. Thank you for making this your first watch or listen after the game. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Also wanted to remind you to please subscribe on YouTube or follow along on your preferred podcast platform so that way you stay up to date on our daily coverage of Notre Dame football throughout the season and more instant reaction episodes like this one. And I have to say, this is by far the most fun instant reaction episode that we have done all season long because that was the most fun Notre Dame to watch. That was just a spectacular performance from Notre Dame in all three phases. I said during my preview episode that this was the most confident I felt about a Notre Dame game all season, and I know that sounded weird in the moment because Notre Dame had just played Purdue, but they had much less problems with Arkansas, an SEC team on the road, than they did playing Purdue at home. And this is such a major step forward for this team. We're going to talk about all the good things that they did in all three phases. Offense, defense, and special teams all came through in this one. Then at the end, we're going to talk about what this win means going forward, because even though I don't want to get into the playoff talk just yet, it's still very early. Notre Dame is still just 2-2 heading into October. This was a big win for the program in terms of everyone else in the country because this was the big game at the noon window as well as USC-Illinois, and Illinois ended up beating USC on a last-second field goal. I just saw that came in here to record. But this is a very big win. I don't think Arkansas is going to be very good. They might end up firing their head coach. But Notre Dame needed a dominant performance like this one to show the world that they really are this good. They are the team that was ranked top 10 in the preseason, and they have what it takes to do some real damage. They have a lot of work left to do, still have to win the remaining 8 games on their schedule, but they had to beat Arkansas, and it would have been a lot better if they did it in dominant fashion, and that's exactly what they did. But why did they win this game? It is because the Notre Dame offense was truly unstoppable. CJ Carr was incredible. The Notre Dame running backs had another great game. Jeremiah Love had 4 touchdowns in the first half. He saw Jadarian Price score 4 touchdowns last week. He's like, you know what? I can do that too. Price had 2 touchdowns as well in this game. So everything about the offense was working. Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, that man was in his bag in this one. Now, it helps that the Arkansas defense was Swiss cheese. Like we thought the Notre Dame defense had some problems. I have no idea what Arkansas's defense was doing for the majority of this game. Notre Dame ran out their second team unit late in the game, and they were still moving the ball with ease. But this, to me, is an elite offense. I thought the offense would be much improved going into the season. They have exceeded my expectations so far. They are so good, they're so dynamic, and they're so explosive. But most of all, they're balanced. They can run the ball at will. They can hit you over the top. They can do everything. And the offensive line continues to improve every single week. They were a weakness against Miami. They mauled Arkansas's defensive line and entire front seven all game long. And that just made life so much easier on the quarterback and the running backs as well. So let's spotlight some specific performances here. CJ Carr finishes 22 of 30 for 354 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. He did most of that in the first half. And I already saw a tweet from Dan Wetzel, writer from ESPN, who says that if Carr continues on this trajectory, he can see him being the number 1 overall pick in the 2027 NFL draft. I think we should pump the brakes a little bit, but man, it is hard to not get really, really excited about CJ Carr's future at Notre Dame. And you think about all the highly touted quarterback recruits that have come through Notre Dame in recent years, like Brandon Wimbush, like Tyler Buckner, like Phil Jurkovec. So many of those guys just didn't work out. Well, up to this point, CJ Carr has worked out and then some. He looks like he is going to be the quarterback that we all hoped he would be when he committed to Notre Dame back in 2023. He is a special, special talent, and he just continues to improve every single week. Like, he had 354 passing yards, and I think he left a lot of yards on the table because there was a couple throws that he missed. For example, when he threw that deep ball to Jaden Greathouse in the first quarter into double coverage, it was an incomplete pass. He had a wide open guy underneath. That would have been a big chunk play. And there were some other throws that he missed, like a slot fade to Will Pauling in the end zone. I think Will Pauling might have gotten tripped up, but it wasn't a perfect throw. The thing is, he was taking a ton of deep shots in this game. Like I was joking with my friends, we have seen more deep shots in this game from the Notre Dame offense than we had seen all last season. So the offense just looks different. A big reason why is because they have a quarterback who can throw the ball at every single level. And he was just unbelievable in this game. So I know I've kind of focused on the bad, but he really was spectacular, was taking shots. He hit Eli Raridon on a great pass on the sideline. He also hit Jaden Greathouse in a slot fade, which we talked about in the preview show. I said Jaden Greathouse was going to catch some slot fades. Unfortunately, he did not find the end zone, which is something else I predicted, but great to see him back out there in the mix, making some great plays. And even the stuff that doesn't look that hard and it shouldn't be hard, like the 4th and 2 play when Notre Dame was trying to score going into the end of the first half. It's 4th and 2. CJ Carr rolls to his right. He finds Will Pauling on a great out route, moves the chains. Like, I know it's an easy throw, but everything had to be perfect about that, and he makes that throw. He also had a couple throws where you're like, wow. Like when he hit Jordan Faison near the sideline, and it looked like the Arkansas defender might jump that. Well, CJ Carr put enough zip on that ball to get it to Faison. He gets the first down. Jordan Faison ends up leading the team with 7 receptions for 89 yards. I think every single one of those but one was a play near the sideline. It seems like that's just working for the Notre Dame offense right now. I don't know why defenses decide not to cover it, but hey, it's a good thing for Notre Dame. Faison has really taken his game to another level this season, and that's huge for this Notre Dame offense because they also have a guy like Malachi Fields who can hit you with 3 catches for 72 yards with a long of 40 on that fake punt that they ran. And honestly, that was just kind of mean, right, in the moment to just kind of just pour salt on the wound in Arkansas, but I love it. I love that this Notre Dame team just never let up in this game. CJ Carr had one of the best performances from a Notre Dame quarterback, especially throwing the ball, that we have seen in a long, long time. And you just think about as he continues to get better each week, it's the little things, right? Like when he rolled to his right on that 3rd down, he almost tried to throw across his body to hit Jordan Faison. Instead, he fake pumps that and then runs for an easy first down. When he was playing Texas A&M, he threw that pass. Now, it was to Jadarian Price, ends up getting tipped, and it ends up being an interception. But Mike Denbrock said sometimes you don't have to make those throws, just tuck it and run it. He did it. So you're seeing him improve week to week, and it's really interesting to think about how good he could be by the end of the season and at this time next year. So loved what I saw from CJ Carr, and I loved what I saw from the Notre Dame running backs even more. Jeremiah Love finishes with only 14 carries for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he also added 5 receptions for 70 yards and 2 more touchdowns, including a great catch on a little corner route deep down the field. Like for the past 2 years, we've been talking about getting Jeremiah Love more involved in the pass game, and most of the time it's like little swing routes, stuff like that. Well, that was one where they threw it down the field. He made a great catch, might have pushed off on the defender. They ended up calling a holding on that play. Notre Dame declined the penalty because it was a great catch for 34 yards to Love. But when he was running routes with the receivers during spring and even a little bit in camp, that was all being set up for moments like this. So the fact that he can make plays downfield is just another thing that opposing defenses are going to have to deal with. And then Jadarian Price, 13 carries, 86 yards, a touchdown. He averaged 6.6 yards per carry. And Jadarian Price also got involved in the passing game as well. 1 catch, 35 yards for a touchdown at the end of the first half. And once he scored that touchdown to put Notre Dame up 42-13, you knew the game was over. Arkansas ended up getting booed off the field in their home stadium at the end of the first half. And something we talked about all week on the show, when I had John Neighbors from Arkansas Razorbacks on, he said, if Notre Dame comes out and they embarrass them early on in the game, the fan base is going to leave. They're going to quit on this group, and that's exactly what happened. In the second half, there were hardly any Arkansas fans left in the stadium. This was one of their marquee home games of the year. It's not looking good for Sam Pittman and the future of that program, but that was a program in complete disarray going into the game. Notre Dame had to come out and jump on them early, and it would make them quit. And that's exactly what happened. Arkansas absolutely folded under pressure here. Once Notre Dame went up big, they just had nothing doing on offense, on defense, and Notre Dame just continued to score and score and score. Let's just talk about some of their final stats offensively. And mind you, The second team unit was in for all of the fourth quarter and a little bit in the third as well. Notre Dame finished with 32 first downs. They went 6 of 10 on third down, 2 of 3 on fourth down. They finished with 641 total yards of offense. They almost doubled up Arkansas. 431 total yards through the air, 210 rushing yards. They didn't have a turnover in this game, although it looked like they were about to when C.J. Carr almost threw a pick at the start of the second half. They averaged 13.5 yards per pass, 5.3 yards per rush. That is a very, very efficient offense. And when I look at this group, I really think this might be the best Notre Dame offense that we have seen since the days of Brady Quinn and Jeff Samardzija and Maurice Stovall and Darius Walker, because this group, they might not have like the first-round picks at wide receiver on the outside. Jeff Samardzija wasn't a first-round pick because he ended up playing baseball, but he was a spectacular wide receiver, almost won the Biletnikoff. But Notre Dame was more balanced because their superstars are in the backfield with Love and Price, and then they have some really talented wide receivers on the outside like Fields, Greathouse, Faison. Eli Raridan was back in the mix today, and Will Pauling came up with some big catches and had his first touchdown in a Notre Dame uniform. And then when you've got this offensive line clicking, that is an elite offense that is going to put up a bunch of points on every single team they play throughout the rest of the regular season. But the offense hasn't really been the issue this year, has it? Right? It's been that Notre Dame defense. And we have a lot more to get to on the show. And coming up next, how about that Irish defense? Chris Ash's group took a major step forward in this one, and we're going to talk about it right after this. Today's episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with zero sugar and zero crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. Honestly, I love how fast it kicks in and that it's sugar-free, so I don't have to worry about crashing later. 5-Hour Energy's literally carried me through some days in high school. I've talked about this before. I had baseball conditioning at 5:30 in the morning. Then I had to go to school, and then I had football workouts in the afternoon. I had very little sleep, and you know what got me through? 5-Hour Energy. So enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It is time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or on Amazon today. For all the talk about the Notre Dame defense and the Arkansas offense going into this game, if I had told you on Friday afternoon that this Notre Dame defense was going to hold Taylon Green and that Bobby Petrino-led offense to 13 points in this game, you would have called me crazy. And that's exactly what Notre Dame did in this game. Now, was it perfect? No. They led up a couple long drives where Arkansas was able to get the ball downfield, including the opening drive of the game where it didn't really look good at all for Notre Dame. Arkansas goes 54 yards in 7 plays, and then it looks like they convert on a 3rd and short, but the wide receiver bobbled the ball. So then Arkansas ended up kicking a field goal there. And in the moment, I was so thrilled that Arkansas decided to run the field goal unit out there. I thought for sure they were going to go for it. They didn't. They kicked a field goal. Notre Dame's offense goes right down the field. They score. They take a 7-3 lead. But then after that, Notre Dame's defense held them to a 3-and-out. And then the first drive of the second quarter is the first and really the only time that Arkansas's offense had anything going in that game. 14 plays, 75 yards, 8 minutes off the clock for a touchdown. And the reason why they were able to move the ball so effectively is because they ran it so well on Notre Dame. There was a couple times where it looked like they were going to break off a huge chunk play, and it didn't happen because Notre Dame tackled a hell of a lot better in this game than they have in any other game this season. But then after that, they had nothing doing. They had a 3-and-out and a punt. Then they had 6 plays in a field goal, fumble, and a half. And then in the third quarter, they had a 10-play drive that ended in a 4th down stop for the Notre Dame defense. And even though they gave up some yards, I mean, Arkansas finishes this game with 365 yards of offense, over 200 yards through the air, and then 158 rushing yards. A lot of that damage was done at the end of the game when the game was already well in hand. Notre Dame was going to run away with this one, but they came up big in key spots. They held Arkansas to 1-3 on 4th downs, and this is just such a big step for the Notre Dame defense, going up against an offense that had all kinds of potential. They held Taylon Green in check for most of this game. He finished 17 of 32 passing for 207 yards and an interception. He did have 81 rushing yards, but 54 of those came on one run. So you got to tip your cap to Chris Ash. Was it perfect? No. Are there still some things that need to get cleaned up? Absolutely. But I felt confident in this game going in because I was like, this Notre Dame defense is not this bad. I know that they are statistically one of the 5 worst defenses in the entire country by basically every single metric. But we know they have really good players. There's talent all over that side of the ball, and that talent started to shine in this game. What a game by Adon Schuler. He leads a team with 9 tackles, had a pass breakup. He was involved in that fumble. And then the safety who started next to him, Tay Johnson, had a big game as well. I thought he was going to have an interception return for a touchdown in this game. He was just a little bit late to it, but he had a big game. Also had a huge hit, too. So it's great to see him making some plays, flying around, because he is such a great athlete. As long as he's comfortable and he knows where to be, he can be a really big-time player for this team. And then Boubacar Traore. Finally, Notre Dame was able to get some pressure in this game. I don't have all the blitz stats up yet. That's going to come in some time once PFF is able to go through this game. But Boubacar Traore finishes with 4 total tackles, a sack, and 3 solo tackles, and he was just in the backfield all night. He was also letting the Arkansas sideline hear about it because he had a sack on Taylon Green, and then they tried to run the read option on 3rd and 20, I believe it was, and Boubacar Traore was right there to stuff him in the backfield. So great game by him. Notre Dame needed that. Jordan Patello got his first sack of the season. It really is crazy that Jordan Patello is playing as much as he is and has been impactful as he has been when you consider the fact that he tore his pec in the summer, and I wasn't even sure we'd see him play until the USC game, but he's been out there, he's been active, and this was a big game for him. There's a couple plays where he didn't get a sack, but he was just driving the opposing tackle well into the pocket, which forced Taylon Green to get outside. So I was really impressed with what I saw from the Notre Dame front 7 in this game. They were more aggressive. There was also a play later on where they ran a delayed blitz that set up an incomplete pass on 4th down. So it wasn't perfect, but this is what you wanted to see from the Notre Dame defense after the first 3 games. And you think back, like that Miami game going into today was the best defensive performance of the season. And now Miami looks like a legit top 5 team. So you're thinking, okay, if they're able to hold Miami's offense in check, right? They didn't have their best game on defense, but they look like a really good team with a high-powered offense. And then, yeah, the A&M game was awful. The first half of Purdue was awful when they didn't have Leonard Moore. They didn't have Devontae Smith, and they didn't have Adon Schuler, but they cleaned things up in the second half, and then it looked like some of that carried over into this game. And Leonard Moore did not play in this game. He's out. I do expect him to be back against Boise State. I think he tried to give it a go, but he's just not able to move around that effectively right now while he nurses that right ankle injury that he suffered against Texas A&M. But Mark Zachary came in, and what a game by the true freshman. He had a great pass breakup in the end zone on a big play. Unfortunately, the Arkansas wide receivers took a very serious injury on that play. But when you think about his growth and his development as a player, when he came in against Texas A&M, he got burnt on that out and up. That was almost a touchdown. Purdue targeted him early and often. They had a lot of success doing that, going his way, but he had a nice pass breakup in the end zone against Purdue, and he had a really nice game in this one. They tried to target him a little bit early. They tried to go to Omega Blake, but he was there. He only finished with 1 tackle, but he had that big pass breakup I just mentioned, and I feel like the secondary as a whole had a really nice game. We saw some real growth from this group, and that is what we needed to see because they had been getting shredded so far this season. And I just think that collectively, everyone on the Notre Dame defense should feel a lot better about themselves after this game. I do think that Marcus Freeman was a lot more active this week in the game planning. He was much more involved on that side of the ball than he normally is, and he's always going to be involved, right? He's the head coach. He's a defensive-minded head coach, but he understood that they needed to lift. He needed to go out in there and really set the tone. And it sounds like all those uncomfortable meetings that they had during the week when he was tearing into them, well, it worked out, right? Because this was a really high-powered offense that they were going up against, and they held them in check for most of the game. Holding them to 13 points was really good. And yes, they benefited from the fact that the offense was just lighting it up on them, and Arkansas was playing from a major deficit. But considering all the criticisms that I have shared about this defense and so many others have shared about this defense, I think it's fair for us to also give them their props after an impressive performance like that. Does it look like a playoff caliber defense just yet? I wouldn't go that far, but now the schedule is going to ease up a little bit these next 2 games, and they play Boise State, who is not nearly as good as they were last year, and then they have NC State at home, and then they're going to be tested against USC at home at night on October 18th, because even though USC just lost to Illinois, that offense is dynamic, man. Mekhi Lemon looks like one of the best wide receivers in the country. Jaden Mayava is a lot better as a quarterback this year than he was last year, and he gave Notre Dame a ton of problems last year. So the defense needs to continue to get better. They need to bring more pressure on the quarterback, but this was a major step forward. And also on special teams, they chipped in a little bit as well. James Riddell didn't have to do a whole lot in this game because Notre Dame never really had to punt. And then the one time that they did, Marty Biaggi went into his bag of tricks and they ran a little reverse pass downfield. Honestly, I don't even think Faison needed to throw that, but when you consider how open Malachi Fields was on that play, why not just throw it downfield and take the chunk play? Some people are like, why did they use that down 42-13? Well, like we saw last year, they have a lot of stuff. They have a lot of tricks up their sleeve, and I think we're going to see more of that this year. But I'm glad that they did that just to continue to put their foot on the gas and never give Arkansas any signs of hope in the second half. So this was a full team effort, offense, defense, and special teams. They all came through in this one. And even though Arkansas is probably going to go like 4-8, hell, they might even fire Sam Pittman after this game, this was a major win for the Irish. So what does it mean going forward? I think they made a statement to the rest of the country that they truly are one of the 12 best teams in college football. We're going to talk about that more coming up next on Locked On Irish. Today's episode is brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly known as Open Phone. It is the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep businesses moving even when you're off the clock. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's quo.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season in here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. All right, here's my pick for the week. We're going to look ahead to Sunday. I've got Tampa Bay plus 3.5 against the Eagles at home. I know the Eagles have been awesome this year. They just had an incredible comeback against the Rams. But you know what? There's something about this team. There's something about Baker Mayfield. They might not win, but I do expect them to cover that 3.5 point spread. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. So as we look at the team in this win from the big picture standpoint, I really think that this was so crucial just for the morale inside the locker room, right? Like we know the vibes have not been great around this team, especially after the 0-2 start and even after the Purdue game. Like Notre Dame fans weren't all that happy about the team, and nor should they be, right? You're never going to be happy when the team starts off 1-2 and they don't handle business like they should have against Purdue. But I feel like this was a big win for the team, the coaching staff, and the fan base to sort of believe in this team again, right? They had a really tough schedule to start the year, arguably the toughest schedule of anyone in college football. They lose by 3 points on the road against Miami. They lose by 1 on just a heartbreaking loss to Texas A&M. And then, they have that bad first half against Purdue before they end up running away with it. And I had joked last week that, like, we had not even had one fun Saturday watching college football as Notre Dame fans because every single game has been either a loss or just, like, sort of a painful, excruciating experience. But that's not the case anymore. And everyone in that Notre Dame offense should be feeling themselves after this game because that is going to carry over. They're just getting better. They're going to continue to light up the scoreboard every single week, no matter who they play the rest of the regular season. And defensively, they've been under siege. They've been getting criticized so much. Everyone's been telling them that they suck. The players, the coaching staff, everything has been going wrong for the Notre Dame defense. But when you have a performance like this, even though it wasn't perfect, that is going to instill so much confidence in that group. And they're going to be like, you know what? We know what we did last year, and we just proved that we can do it again this year. Let's do it again next week. And then let's do it again the following week. And then let's do it again against USC, a really high-powered offense. Like, that needs to be the mindset for this team going forward because, as we know, they need to win the next 8 straight to even have a chance at the college football playoff. They took care of business against the first 2. They're back to 500. I think they're going to move up quite a bit in the rankings this week. But every week, they have to just go 1-0. And every week, if they dominate like they did against Arkansas, that's going to send a message to everyone else around the country that, hey, Notre Dame, they had a tough start, but they have rebounded and they are getting better every single week. And if they continue to put together performances like this, where they just smoke opposing teams, it's never even close. That's what they need to do. Last year, they didn't really happen until about October 12th when they smoked Stanford. And then after that, it was just one blowout after another. Like, style points matter for this team because they put themselves behind the 8 ball early on. But if they come out every single week and they dominate their opponent like they did against Arkansas, that is going to send a message. I'm hesitant to call this a statement win because, like I said, Arkansas is not a very good team. They have a really good offense, but as a team overall, a lot of dysfunction. This team just flat out gave up. Let's be honest. Once Notre Dame went up, they converted that 4th down. They scored that touchdown to go up 35-13. And then the wide receiver on Arkansas just fumbled the ball, and Notre Dame scored like it was over. They got booed in their own home field going into halftime. So this team quit, but Notre Dame made them quit, right? Notre Dame did that. They didn't just fold over in the first half. Notre Dame went out, they took it to them, and they forced that team to submit. And they need to do that again against Boise State, and they need to do it again against NC State and every single team that they play after that. But because they put together a performance like this, now we believe that they can, that the defense can do enough, that they can hold them down. Well, the Notre Dame offense just runs wild, right? Whether they're handing the ball off to Love or Price or whether they're taking deep shots down the field, this is just a super fun offense to watch, which has not always been the case. Like last year, even when the offense kind of figured it out in the second half of the season, it wasn't like the most entertaining thing in the world. Like, it was fun watching Jeremiah Love hurdle guys and Riley Leonard converting every single 3rd and short imaginable because we just used him as a battering ram to get those 3rd and short or 4th and short conversions. It wasn't all that exciting. Well, this offense, this is super exciting. And if this defense can step up enough that they can finish 10-2, just think about how fun it'd be to watch CJ Carr in this offense go up against some of the best teams in college football when they finally found the rhythm. CJ Carr has some experience. Wouldn't that be a whole lot of fun? Again, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I am very, very excited about the future of this team because of a performance like this. This is just an unbelievable game from start to finish. And it was great that they did it on the road too, because now they have a stretch of 3 straight home games coming up. And I just think there's something to going on the road, feeling like it's us against the world, and that can galvanize a team. And I think that's what happened in this game, because even though Arkansas fans ended up leaving this game, at the beginning, the crowd was rocking. It was a big-time game, even though it started at 11 a.m. local time. I'm sure that the Razorback faithful in Fayetteville, they had a nice little morning, had some adult beverages. They were feeling themselves going into the game, and then Notre Dame was like, yeah, how about you just get absolutely smoked in this game? Like, Notre Dame just beat the piss out of them. That's really all there is to say about this one. And I just feel like this is going to give them so much confidence going forward, but they need to just reset after this one and then put all their focus on Boise State. Beat them. I think Notre Dame is 15.5-point favorites, or at least they were at the start of Saturday. Maybe that changes after this dominant performance, but I think a lot of people around the country are going to start to think about this Notre Dame team a lot differently. Now, so I've already seen some people get like prematurely annoyed about Notre Dame 10-2 playoff talk, but again, I don't want to get too ahead of myself about whether or not they deserve, like, the validity of those 2 losses, any of that. The most important thing is that Notre Dame went out there and they improved in all 3 phases. I know that sounds like coach speak, but that's really what they need to do, and they went 1-0. They ended up winning here by 43 points against an SEC team on the road, and I just love what this win does for the team going forward, and I'm so excited to talk about it a lot more this week on the show. But that is going to do it for today's instant reaction episode after Notre Dame won 56-13. Thank you again for making this your first watch or listen after the game. Remember to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening to the podcast if you enjoyed the show. Give this video a like if you're watching on YouTube, or rate the podcast 5 stars and leave a review. It really helps us out. I'm going to be back on Tuesday of next week with Luke Smith to talk about the scene in Fayetteville. Then we're going to break down everything we liked and didn't like from the game. Spoiler alert, going to be a lot more that we liked from this one. Then we're going to move on to Boise State. Got daily coverage coming your way next week. Remember, enjoy the rest of your game day. There's so much more good college football to watch the rest of the day, and you can enjoy it knowing that Notre Dame just blew out Arkansas. They took care of business, and you get to sit on your couch and watch an amazing slate of college football. It is a great Saturday, folks. I'm going to see you soon. Go Irish.